Guys, thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys. You know you've got many, many choices to make every single day, and we are so very grateful that you choose to spend some time with us. So thank you. And yes, we're here. We survive. I mean, it is early, I suppose, at 8:01 Eastern Time. News and weather together. Happy Tuesday, September 23rd. As is the case, as always, there's a gifting goal today. Please consider contributing to that. Also, if you haven't joined our team, please do that. We are crowd-funded here. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so at the various appetizers that exist out in cyber at Factsstillmatter, and we'll post our goal. And anybody who wants me to read a comment, I would be happy to read it. Also, coming up tomorrow, kicking off a campaign to try to help get us over to YouTube. So stay tuned for that. There's going to be incentives. In fact, today, if anybody who donates $5 or more will go into a drawing, and I'll pick the winner, and you'll get an item of the merch store. That's simple. So if you want to do that, $5 donation gets you entered. I will gather the information for people who donate today, and then I'll announce the winner tomorrow. So thank you guys for being here. We have a lot to cover. Oh yeah, don't forget, join our Discord. That's where the action happens. And if you have not yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's very, very important. So thank you. I want to get into the topic of the day. Obviously, is what we witnessed yesterday. I've been very, very vocal about my support for public health professionals and how what this administration is doing is just absolutely fucking harmful. And these are the kinds of things that we don't necessarily quickly come back from. So we're going to play some sound from that press conference. I think it's disturbing. We're going to fact check it as we always do here, because my biggest concern is, hundreds of well-accredited, the best minds in the world have laid out the impacts of various things, pro or con, and then one administration led by absolute fucking quacks, are going to change people's minds on public health policy, and that really is disturbing to me. But we'll get into that anyway. I do want to report on an interesting story. So during the CK Memorial in Arizona, there was a massive Grindr outage. So right-wing personality CK's memorial service took place in Glendale, Arizona on Sunday, and surely by complete coincidence, Grindr experienced outages in the area around the same time. Report claims that tens of thousands of people attended the memorial for the controversial podcast, with high-level MAGA politicians and other public figures flying in from across the country to attend. Republicans were quick to pin Kirk's unaliving on trans people and trans ideology before a suspect was even in custody, and Kirk himself had made plenty of negative remarks about the LGBTQ plus community during his life. In completely unrelated news, there were over 168 reports of Grindr outages on Sunday evening, a staggering increase in the baseline number of 2. A heat map showed a large concentration of those problems taking place in the Glendale area. The outages have continued through Monday, at one point reaching a report. Despite these two events clearly having absolutely nothing to do with one another, social media users are, for some unfathomable reason, drawing a link between them. Interesting, considering we also had some reporting recently that the overwhelming spikes in searches on various entities where you would find information like this for trans corn higher in Republican states and Republican cities. Oh, and by the way, there's also reporting that Cornhub had some delays in service in and around the same area. A post from their looks like verified X account. I'll just read you what it says. We hear your complaints. This is from Cornhub. We hear your complaints and have taken steps to add server capacity and address slowness on our website. This is due to a flood of trans corn requests from Arizona because of a special event being held there on Sunday. We will make sure to be prepared in the future and not let this happen again. Thank you, Hubbers. Coincidence? I don't know. I'm just reporting on what the news tells us. So, yeah. Wild. Before we get into our topic today, and again, thank you guys for being here. We love you all very much. I wanted to talk about a story that I did not get to yesterday. Okay. I did not cover this story yesterday. I meant to. We speak in terms of corruption. And my concern is that we are going to normalize it because of the levels of corruption that this administration is involved in like every day. We hear something new every single day, whether it's meme coin or whether it's selling gold Amex cards and whatever else. And then the situation last week we discussed with the UAE getting access to AI chips through NVIDIA, while at the same time the same sheik, the royal family member who is responsible for controlling $1.5 trillion in assets, was making a multi-billion-dollar donation into the media entity, World Liberty Financial. So, and the corruption is just exponential. This story about Tom Homan, I'm not sure if you've heard it yet, but Tom Homan was investigated. Tom Homan, border czar, absolute despicable human being, was investigated for accepting $50,000 from undercover FBI agents before Trump's DOJ shut it down. So this is the sound that I want you to hear. This is part of the reporting. This is wild, and because there's money exchange stands. Hang on a second, because. Well, here's the story.
Agents and sources involved in this essentially were really concerned because they did record him accepting a bag of cash. And most FBI seasoned investigators view accepting cash in a secret meeting that is surreptitiously arranged as sort of evidence of corrupt intent, someone realizing that they're doing something criminal and inappropriate. So that recording was incredibly important to them and a key piece of evidence. Legal experts told us that Homan could have been charged then, even though he wasn't a public official. He could have been charged with conspiracy or fraud in promising something improper in exchange for money. But what happened, to your question, was that basically the investigation stalled as soon as the Trump appointees came into the DOJ and the.
Yeah, so like a bag of cash. Tom Homan was investigated for accepting $50,000 of undercover FBI agents before Trump's DOJ shut it down. In an undercover operation last year, the FBI recorded Tom Homan, now the White House border czar, accepting $50,000 in cash. Like literally, they say there's video of him accepting $50,000 in cash. Like a bag of cash. Not to be confused with a bag of glass, but a bag of cash. Accepting $50,000 in cash after indicating he could help the agents who were posing as business executives win government contracts in a second Trump administration, according to multiple people familiar with the probe and internal documents reviewed by NBC. Yep. The FBI and the Justice Department plan to wait and see whether Homan would deliver on his alleged promise once he became the nation's top immigration official. But the case indefinitely stalled soon after Donald Trump became president again in January, according to 6 sources familiar with the matter. In recent weeks, Trump appointees officially closed the investigation after FBI Director Kash Patel requested a status update on the case, 2 of the people said. It's unclear what reasons FBI and Justice Department officials gave for shutting down the investigation, but a Trump Justice Department appointee called the case a, quote, deep state probe. Of course they did, in early 2025, and no further investigation steps were taken, same sources say. The federal investigation was launched in western Texas in the summer of 2024 after a subject in a separate investigation claimed Homan was soliciting payments in exchange for awarding contracts should Trump win the presidency, according to an internal Justice Department summary of the probe reviewed by NBC and people familiar with the case. In a statement provided to NBC, FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said, quote, this matter originated under the previous administration and was subjected to a full review by FBI agents and Justice Department prosecutors. They found no credible, again, that word, they like to use it, as I'm reminding you guys, that's the word we should be focusing on in everything. They're not talking about, all they're talking about is in an attempt to say, well, that's not credible. That's not credible. The survivors' statements, the dozens of women who came forward telling their story, they're not credible. This is incredible. They're going to use the word credible a lot to try to cover up for their fucking bullshit. We got them, though. They found no credible evidence of any criminal wrongdoing. The department's resources must remain focused on real threats to the American people, not baseless investigations. As a result, the investigation has been closed. Interesting. Well, Caroline got involved. She's wearing her cross for this, by the way. So just ask the question, okay? And I just want you to see if you can determine what her actual answer is.
Thanks, Caroline. So too on the Holman investigation, I mean, can you just speak to, did the president ask the Justice Department to close the case, and does Holman have to return the $50,000?
Well, Mr. Holman never took the $50,000 that you're referring
Okay, well, that's not what the reporting says. So, okay.
to, so you should get your facts straight, number one.
Oh.
Number two, this was another example of the weaponization of the Biden Department of Justice against one of President Trump's strongest and most vocal supporters in the midst of a presidential campaign. You had FBI agents going undercover to try and entrap one of the president's top allies and supporters, someone who they knew very well would be taking a government position months later. Mr. Holman did absolutely nothing wrong, and even the president's Department of Justice, even Kash Patel's FBI, looked into this just to make sure. They had a number of different prosecutors and FBI agents who looked into this. They found zero evidence of illegal activity or criminal wrongdoing. In the White House and the president stand by Tom Holman 100% because he did absolutely nothing wrong, and he is a brave public servant who has done a phenomenal job in helping the president shut down the border.
Right. Her name is Regina George. If you know, you know. Okay, so here we are again, right? Here we are again. Investigation into the corruption. There is video of him taking a bag of cash, and that doesn't exist, and it's a deep state. It's not Tom Holland, it's Tom Holman. But thank you. But nothing to see here, right? Nothing to see here. We should have a revenge party. I'm just saying. If you know, you know. It as the world burns. I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm done with the Mean Girl references. By the way, happy Rosh Hashanah if you are celebrating. Are you supposed to say happy? I hope so. Happy Rosh Hashanah. The corruption is so fetch, Toodle. You're absolutely right. The corruption is so fetch. Look, it's a machine. It's a machine built on corruption and lies. They just throw more. It's like the translanguageator or the whatever the thing was on the DeLorean and Back to the Future. Right? They just throw more lies, more hypocrisy, more bullshit into the back, and they hope the car continues to travel down the road. Because look, bags of cash. Right? Bags of cash. Stop trying to make fetch happen. I will. Sorry. I'll stop. Anyway, we'll see where this goes. Flux capacitor. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, the flux capacitor. Then there's that whole reporting about, the direct message that was leaked by the president that looked like a DM. About literally how I have reviewed over 30 statements. This was to Pam. He sent this out on the 20th. It's over the weekend. So what, Saturday? Pam, this was on True Social, like it was a direct message. I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time. All talk, no action. Nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? What does that tell you? That tells you that the president is asking America's attorney general, not his personal lawyer, to go and investigate, to go in charge, to go and indict, no matter what they say, no matter what they've done or have not done. There's no evidence connecting Letitia James to any crimes, which is why the U.S. attorney appointed by Trump resigned, right? And then Caroline Leavitt says, this is all lawfare. Okay. Remember how we always tell you guys, right? The calls are usually coming from inside the house. An entire administration that's built on weaponization of government. An entire administration that is built on becoming the deep state if they aren't already. Boom. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Let's talk about, well, first, Jimmy Kimmel's back on the air tonight. It's really funny because you have, I did a video, it's the second video that's on my page about how people on the right were just cheering and cheering and cheering. First of all, calling him fired. He was never fired. He was preempted. I wonder why he got back on the air. Oh, I can tell you why. Money. Disney was looking at public reaction. Disney was looking at subscriptions canceling. So friends, if you canceled your subscription in support of this, please don't renew. Please don't renew. As a reminder, just let them know that we do have a little bit of power. And I think I think it's emblematic of the power that we do have. Here we go, right? the American public said this is bullshit. Whether or not you like Jimmy Kimmel or not, who cares? That's not the point. So people canceled their subscriptions. And remember, part of the story behind the scenes is that Nexstar wanted to buy Tenga to do a merger for $6.2 billion. They needed the FCC's approval to do so. Disney, parent company, owned by Michael Eisner, owns ESPN and Hulu, right? Where you can also find Kimmel show streaming. Wanted to buy Fubo. They needed which is another streaming service. They wanted the FCC and the Department of Justice to approve that sale. So now what happens? So now we'll watch. Now we'll watch and see what happens. We'll see if those sales get approved. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It wasn't Trump that got Kimmel fired then? He didn't get fired. It wasn't him. He didn't get fired. He got preempted. Pay attention. I'll say it again. Show was preempted, not fired. Show's back on the air tonight. The situation came from a merger from the FCC. Had nothing to do with ratings. If it had to do with ratings, then why would they bring him back on the air? It had to do with the fact that because the public reacted to his show being preempted, canceling subscriptions to the tune of billions of dollars in loss or potential loss and market cap loss. What did they do? They responded like, "Oh fuck, we can't let this die." So there you go, back on the air. And just this little sound, just to play on that. This was a gentleman by the name of Brad Palumbo, and then we'll get into our topic today. This I think this summarized everything that we should be talking about in regards to the FCC and controlling the press and the media.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, if they had just decided to get rid of Kimmel, so be it. As a market decision, I don't think he's been funny in at least a decade, and I think what he said about Charlie Kirk was gross. But I think it's really, really reprehensible, and I do think it's an attack on the First Amendment for the FCC chairman to speak almost like a mafia boss and say, nice license your member stations have there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it, right? He said, his exact words were, we can do this the easy way or the hard way.
Yeah.
If you don't take action on Kimmel.
However,
that's jawboning. Well, I don't think either of us know that for certain. We can't get in the minds of the executives.
I'm repeating the reporting from both the Hollywood Reporter and the Wall Street Journal.
Right, and the show's been on air for 22 years, and it was canceled the same day he made those threats. Maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it had no effect at all. Doesn't change the fact it is wildly inappropriate for an FCC chair to speak like this. Well, I think a lot of your critiques are legitimate, but I don't want the government coming in and saying for ideological or even fact-based disputes. Right? In the same way, let me paint you a picture for a moment. Imagine that after the 2020 election, Biden's FCC had said to the 500 radio stations, which are also regulated by the FCC, that carry Fox News Radio, that listen, you guys got to get rid of this Sean Hannity guy, or take action on Hannity, or easy way or hard way, or those licenses could be in danger. I would call that an attack on the free press. I would call that an attack on the First Amendment, and I think you would too. But the only difference here is that the partisan loyalties are switched here. And if we have double standards, well, we don't have any standards at all.
There's not much Will Kane can say to that, because it's true. That's how we should all feel. Remember how yesterday's show was about it's us versus them? This is an example of the us versus them. You know, the public space is ours. Public broadcasting, access to media, access to the airwaves. It's ours. We are the ones that need our government to inform us, not hide the truth like this current administration does all the time. So this is an example. The them being the media moguls, whether it's what was the show on? I don't even know. Anyway, the Murdoch family, the Sinclair Broadcasting family. There's rumors that the Sinclair stations won't be airing Kimmel tonight. We'll see. I don't know. We don't know. I guess we won't know until tonight. There's a long time for that to happen. I've seen statements that said they won't. Would that be all Sinclair stations? I guess we'll find out this evening. But I think it proves the point that we do have power. So again, friends, I would encourage you, everybody, to make up their own mind. But if you canceled your subscription to Disney Plus or whatever that might be, don't renew it. I think what the billionaire class, the people who own these stations, these media empires, expect you to just resubscribe. Oh, they'll be fine. We'll just put Kimmel back on the air and they'll resubscribe. And then they'll pull them off the air again, and then you guys won't want to be in the cycle. So just hold true it. Do you need it? It's one of those things. This is what the right tends to count on. They count on the apathy of the left, that we won't really stand up, that we won't really do anything. Okay. So prove them wrong. Prove them wrong. Prove them wrong. Okay. So let's discuss the incidents of yesterday. Actually, before I do that, I want to just, again, this statement that he made to Pam Bondi about going after my political opponents. They're really as guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. Then we almost put in a Democrat supporter, U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past, a woke rhino. That's why the two worst Dem senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media, and he said he'd quit and that he had no cause. No, I fired him, and there's a great cause. There's a great case there, and many lawyers and legal pundits say Lindsey Halligan is really good, a lot like you. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served. Calling in, rallying the troops, so to speak, to go after his political opponents. That's you can't read that any other way. Here's the thing. He's got a history of this shit. So this goes back a long time, sitting with Charlie Rose. And I remember this clip, and it took me a long time to find it because I forgot what to search for. But he sat down with Charlie Rose. This is from 1992, I think. Yes. Here you go. Listen to his mob boss mouth.
Would have wiped the floor with the guys that weren't loyal, which I will now do, which is great. I love getting even with people. But I will. I will have wiped.
You love getting even.
Oh, absolutely. You don't believe in the eye for the eye. You do.
No.
I know you well enough. I think you do. But anyway, but
tell me. I mean, you're going to get even with some people.
Yeah, I know. If given the opportunity, I will get even with some people that were disloyal to me. I mean, I had a group of people that were disloyal.
But how do you define disloyalty?
They didn't come to my aid.
Oh.
Yeah, I would have wiped the floor with the guy.
Didn't come to my aid. Interesting, right? So that was from 1992. So what, 35 years ago, roughly speaking? That's the Roy Cohn mob boss mindset. I demand loyalty. You sign your life to me in blood, figuratively speaking, of course. Who knows, though? You sign everything over to me. I demand your loyalty. Even people in his own party, even people in his own circle. So do you think he's going to hold on to Kash Patel? Kash is being super loyal. He knows he has to be, or he's out the door. People like this U.S. attorney that he claims to have fired, who resigned, who was a Trump appointee, other Trump appointees, people in the first administration who stood up to him. What happened to those folks? They're now on lists to be investigated. And nothing to see here, right? Nothing to see here.
Guys that weren't loyal, which I will now do, which is great. I love getting even. I love getting
even with people. Okay. I'm sure that's fine, though, right? Here's the sound that I was just talking about as far as loyalty goes.
A story that we have been following all day, Simone, and that is that U.S. Attorney Eric Seabird, who oversees the federal prosecutor's office in the Eastern District of Virginia. As you will recall, he was tasked by the president with pursuing a case against New York appointed to the post, refuses to do his bidding, and even those folks are being told you can resign or you'll be fired. Breaking news on a story that we have been following all.
So, there's that. People that are, rhinos. Don't forget about Liz Cheney. He made a reference to Liz Cheney about crosshairs being on her head. People, Liz Cheney, who voted with Trump like 95% of the time, something like that. Apparently, it's no big deal that the deep state exists in the mind of conservative voters, as long as it was on the left. So the deep state that they claim, there's no deeper state than this. No deeper state. Thank you to Nancy for your $5 on the V. Appreciate you. Also, thank you to Carol. $5 donation gets you into a drawing today. If you make $5 towards the gift goal today, enter you in a drawing and you can win your choice of any item from the merch store. You can find the merch store, by the way, at factsstillmatter.site. Thank you guys very, very much. So, We're not going to get any movement from the right by and large. We don't need a lot, though. Right? We don't need a lot. We don't need a lot of movement. We just need one or two percentage of people who are so disgusted by Trump that they just don't show up and vote. I'm not expecting them to suddenly vote for radical leftists who believe in health care, water, food, and shelter for people, and that so children don't starve. Oh, that's just a bridge too far. Maybe just don't go. Maybe just don't vote. How about that? Okay, so let's get into the events of yesterday. I was on pause for the whole clip. Oh, sorry. It was just an investigation. I apologize. That makes sense, though. All right. That presser yesterday, and don't forget, we announced that there was going to be this moment from the White House that they're gonna go after autism. Well, let me just play the sound. Managed to capture a lot of it. There's just so much in this speech that we have to address. So much dangerous rhetoric, so much bullshit, so many lies, so much just absolute horrible statements regarding public health. So to summarize, before we get into this, it is my belief that people like RFK, people like Dr. Oz, people like President Trump, this entire administration, what they're doing is just another way to diminish women. Just another example of how they're going to attempt to blame women, in this case, mothers, for something that they shouldn't be blamed for. I'm sure I'm sure moms everywhere are hearing this news, and even the thought popping into their head, even the thought that me being prescribed acetaminophen, generic or brand name Tylenol, did something to my child if your child was born with autism. First of all, please don't own that. Please don't own that. Like everything else we all do, we do the best that we can with the information that we have. Please do not own that. But in my estimation, it's just another example of how white Christian nationalists want to blame women for something because they can't accept their own misgivings, their mediocrity. So this is the sound. This is how it started, and we'll unpack it.
Effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. We've learned some pretty good things about certain elements of genius that can be given to a baby, and the baby can get better. When the alternative is that nothing bad can happen, let's do it now. I was just saying to Bobby and the group, let's do it now. Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. But with
nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. Okay.
Tylenol, don't take it. Don't take it. And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel, the mumps, measles, and the three should be taken separately. And it seems to be that when you mix them, there could be a problem.
I'm just trying to frame
first effect.
I just want to frame how I want to talk about this. I want to play a little additional sound that probably didn't even get caught by most people, but there was a story that he tried to tell. And I'm just going to play this for you guys so we can listen to this together. There was a story about a person who either worked for him or was in the Trump family. So here's this.
And I can tell you that I had a woman who worked for me, a beautiful, wonderful woman, worked in Trump Tower, and she had the most perfect child, beautiful, just perfect. And I remember this little blonde-haired boy running around the lobby of Trump Tower, so healthy and so vibrant. And I said, that's great. One day I came in and she was crying, her eyes out behind the counter. She worked at the front desk. She was crying her eyes out. I've never, as much as I've ever seen anyone distraught, she was. I said, are you okay? What happened? My boy, I've lost my boy. What does that mean, your boy? My boy, you know him, sir. You've seen him grow up. He was so beautiful. And I took him for a vaccine, sir. And he developed this unbelievable, I think she said 107, 108. You know, it goes well beyond when this happens. It goes up to 106, 107, 108. You know, we hear 105 and you're in trouble, but it just goes up to a level that you never hear about, but it goes up very high. And it's fried. They get fried. She said, I took him, he developed an unbelievable temperature. And I've lost him, sir. He's gone. And then I saw the boy. It was so tragic to see.
You saw him after he was gone?
That was the following day. After the vaccine. And I've seen it 2 other times, and I think 3 other times, but 2 other times where they go to the doctor, they get the vaccine, they get the shot. The kid is, badly hurt. Let's be nice, badly hurt.
I don't even know where to begin. Good morning, my friend.
Oh.
Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
I would have preferred rapturing, but I'm here.
Right? Yes, I agree.
I asked Francis to join us, friends, because not only is Francis one of my amazing mods and has been from like the beginning. You watched me grow up, but you also have work in this space, so to speak. Not a medical professional, but you work with people who are impacted, and your perspective, I think, is unique. So after hearing what you heard yesterday, what do you think?
Well, like you said, I've been working with people with autism for over 20 years now. I'm a speech language pathologist. I started off my career doing early intervention. So we would oftentimes be the first people to see a child who would then be diagnosed with autism. I think that this rhetoric that he is speaking is very dangerous to the community in so many ways, right? I think it's very dangerous to women because then again, we are told something that we did or might have done may have impacted our children, right? And I also think it's very dangerous to the autistic community because it paints them in a light like they are somehow diseased or not capable. And that's just not the case, right? I see, obviously because of what I do, I have a lot of people who follow me on Facebook or I follow on Facebook who are families that I've worked with. And I see them, upset about this. It's unconscionable that someone at this level would speak this kind of rhetoric.
Yeah, I mean, neither Francis nor I are medical professionals, and neither of us is up here suggesting that you make medical decisions without consulting your physician. But my concern, based on exactly what you just said, is that there are numerous studies. I'm going to get into some of them in just a bit. Numerous studies discussing the safety, efficacy of acetaminophen for pregnant persons. And how there's hundreds of studies, if not thousands of studies, that do not connect vaccines to autism. And all of a sudden, I'll get people some history of RFK in just a moment. And Dr. Oz, people that have been anti-vaxxers for such a long time and have been charged, and their own family members have disowned them. And now they come out with a study, research, and that one statement by the president, by the HHS director, by Dr. Oz is going to convince some people that I've done something wrong, to your point, that moms have done something wrong. And the entire community is going to say, they told us the truth. Meanwhile, you've got thousands of well-regarded, world-renowned professionals saying, no. This is the truth. And people are going to choose the confirmation bias of their political ideology, sadly. And it's going to cost people their lives.
Can we start with his first piece of misinformation? There are not hundreds of vaccines that kids are given. There's
Correct.
15 recommended vaccinations. Mm-hmm. That's the first piece of misinformation.
And they're on a schedule.
They are. I think what confuses some people is some of them require booster shots throughout the child's life, but there's only 15.
For those of us who are Gen X, we have the big old scar on our shoulders. You know, the tetanus shot or whatever it is. But you're right. It's just one, public health. I mean, Francis knows I'm passionate about this issue like many others, but this is just damaging for so many people. This is not a political thing. This is an us versus them. We're talking about public health here. People can make their own decisions, but to not require it. Now schools in Florida are saying they're going to remove the vaccine mandates for schools. For what reason? There's no reason to do this. There's just no reason. There's no reason. There are no, from my perspective, there are no pros, only cons.
And we already had in Florida, spikes in measles.
Yeah.
Before removing the mandates, right? Because it's fairly easy to have a religious exemption. They don't really question it when you go to school. So the crazies start here pretty early, but this is going to make it worse.
What would your advice be, Francis, to people?
What would my advice be to people?
Yeah, especially parents now, moms. You know, I'm just thinking of they're hearing this news and they're beating themselves up over it. And they're confused and they're conflicted and they feel like they might partially be responsible. And just what would your advice be?
My advice, first of all, would be to go to sources, right? Let's go to a primary source. So look at reputable scientific communities and look at that research design and see if there's efficacy.
We lost you.
Hold on. Is that any better? I'm going to drop down.
From what I heard, sources, well-respected, organizations that have been doing this forever. You kept cutting out. We didn't hear you. I obviously know RFK Jr. is the HHS secretary. In 2005, RFK Jr. published a deadly immunity in 2005. RFK Jr. published Deadly Immunity in Rolling Stone and in Salon magazine, claiming government collusion with pharmaceutical companies to hide links between thimerosal, a mercury-based preservative, and vaccines and autism. That's kind of where this whole thing started. The article was later retracted due to numerous factual inaccuracies. He began framing vaccination issues as a matter of government corruption and corporate capture rather than just scientific uncertainty. Founding of the Children's Health Defense in 2011, Kennedy became chairman of what is now Children's Health Defense, or CHD, a nonprofit that campaigns against vaccines and other public health measures. CHD pushed the claim that vaccines contribute to a childhood health crisis, frequently linking them to autism, ADHD, allergies, and chronic illness, all claims rejected by mainstream science. F1 in the chat, please, friends. These topics get a little complicated with TikTok algorithms, so if you guys wouldn't mind, just please F1 in the chat. Thank you very much. And tapping always helps. Gifting always helps as well. Heightened vaccine skepticism in the 2010s. RFK Jr. repeatedly argued that, quote, the CDC is corrupt and manipulated by pharmaceutical interests. Vaccine safety studies are inadequate or fraudulent. Parents should have the right to refuse vaccination without mandates. From 2014 to 2015, he spoke out against California's tightening of school vaccination requirements after measles outbreaks. He became one of the most prominent figures in the U.S. anti-vax movement, though he often described himself as not an anti-vaxxer, but as a pro-safe vaxxer. In January 2017, RFK Jr. announced that Donald Trump had asked him to chair a vaccine safety commission. The White House never formalized the commission, but the episode raised Kennedy's profile as a vaccine critic. The medical community strongly opposed the idea, citing overwhelming evidence of vaccine safety. During C-19, RFK Jr.'s rhetoric escalated dramatically. He called vaccine mandates a coup d'etat against democracy and compared them to Yahtzee Germany. His 2021 book, The Real Anthony Fauci, accused Dr. Fauci and global health agencies of orchestrating a conspiracy to push unsafe vaccines. Social media platforms suspended CHD accounts for spreading C-19 misinformation. His statements drew bipartisan condemnation, including from members of his own family who publicly distanced themselves from him. As an independent presidential candidate in 2023 to 2025, Kennedy has softened but not abandoned his rhetoric. He now emphasizes being pro-choice on vaccines rather than anti-vaccine. He continues to suggest links between vaccines and chronic illness despite the lack of scientific support. He frames vaccine skepticism as part of a broader fight against corporate and government collusion. Mainstream medical experts and fact checkers continue to highlight that his claims contradict decades of peer-reviewed research. Dozens of large studies have found no link between vaccines and autism. Vaccine safety monitoring is extensive in the U.S. and globally. The American Academy of Pediatrics, CDC, WHO, and virtually all reputable medical organizations have condemned Kennedy's claims as misinformation that undermines public health. So the question that people have to ask themselves now, right? We've got every single organizations, by the way, he has railed against. But you'll know the statements that he's gone public have received condemnation, not just from those organizations that he's attacked, but just about everybody else as well. Bipartisan. People who would be pro vaccine freedom, so to speak, have all said the same thing, that you are spreading misinformation and disinformation and propaganda, trying to create this big plot, this conspiracy, this collusion, this coup d'etat against democracy. And he's been disowned by his own family. And that's the person that's setting public health policy. A person who softened his stance while he was running for president. He's always been an anti-vaxxer. Always. Always. And now here we are. He's in charge of public health policy. Dr. Oz, who was up there with him yesterday. Dr. Mehmet Oz, cardiothoracic surgeon, television personality, author, and former political candidate. He earned his MD from the University of Pennsylvania and then MBA from Wharton School of Business, served as a professor of surgery at Columbia University, was a practicing heart surgeon credited with innovative techniques in cardiac care. The Oprah connection. He rose to fame through regular appearances on The Oprah Winfrey Show in the early 2000s. The Dr. Oz Show from 2009 to 2022, a daytime TV program mixing health advice, medical topics, and wellness trends. It ran for 13 seasons reaching millions of viewers. Known for blending mainstream medical guidance with alternative and unconventional treatments such as herbal supplements, miracle weight loss products, and homeopathy. Medical community concerns. Multiple studies found that a significant portion of the advice on the Dr. Oz show was unsupported or contradicted by scientific evidence. In 2014, the British Medical Journal Review reported that only about 40% of his recommendations were supported by evidence, while 39% had no supporting evidence or directly contradicted best practices. Senate testimony in 2014, Oz was criticized by a bipartisan Senate committee for promoting unproven weight loss products as miracle solutions. Columbia University petition in 2015, a group of physicians called for his removal from Columbia's faculty, citing disdain for evidence-based medicine. He remained on staff, but with a reduced role. In 2022, ran as the Republican Senate candidate in Pennsylvania, lost to Fetterman. His campaign was widely covered, and critics highlighted his New Jersey residence and past promotion of dubious medical claims. Question is, since we're using the term credible, should he be considered credible? As a trained surgeon, he has legitimate medical expertise in cardiothoracic surgery. As a public health commentator, his record is extremely problematic. Frequently promoted unproven or misleading products, blended evidence-based medicine with sensationalized claims, often undermining trust in science. Within the medical community, Dr. Oz is not considered a consistently reliable source of medical advice. He's often seen as a media personality and at first and a physician second. So those two people are in charge of public health in our country. Those two people. One who lost his cred, who had a diminished role because of how fucking crazy he became, promoting miracle cures that were fraudulent, less than half of the claims he made unsupported with credible evidence, and then nearly 40% had no evidence at all to back up his claims. Those are the people that are in charge of public health. Those two guys. And then they use the twice impeached, four-time indicted, sexually abusing, fraudulent, convicted felon name on a list predator as their mouthpiece. And then they tokenized two women who voted for Trump came up and they talked about their children's stories. Anecdotal. Sorry that happened to your kid. This shit is so fucking dangerous. It makes me really fucking angry. Really angry. Really, really angry. See Ash. Hi, how are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing all right. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm sure I feel a lot of the things. I just wanted to say a couple things. I agree, obviously, with what you're saying, and you hit on a couple things. I give it 6 months, and Dr. Oz is going to be selling something to combat this. Follow the money, right?
Absolutely.
Money. But I was thinking, my mom and I were talking, we randomly talk about a lot of things, but during the Industrial Revolution, working mothers were really were demonized for the health of their children when they had to take their...
Hey, Ash, I trust you. Somebody's at my door. I got to go deal with that. I'll be right back, but I trust you.
This happened last time I was up, so I'm feeling like he doesn't want to hear anything I have to say. I'm just kidding. During the Industrial Revolution, working mothers who had to work were demonized for the health problems from their children that were inside of the working conditions, rather than addressing the. I know, right? Hopefully, you guys like what I'm saying. So I really think like heavy on the blame and blaming mothers, and this is obviously laying the groundwork for something. And I think they want to demonize working mothers, right? He talked a lot about. I think he pulled up that woman from Maha who was she started off with, and then right. So there was no she was already brainwashed. So I feel like this Maha and vaccines and women, this is a way to get the women in and cause a divide with the women and parenting as well. And I feel like, history doesn't always repeat itself, but it's rhyming with that and the divide. So I just like am wanting people to pay attention and watch this. They're trying to cause chaos and divide, and this is going to divide science versus nature. This is going to divide working moms versus stay-at-home moms. This is going to divide. This is all part of the plan and laying the groundwork. Also, I mean, I have no doubt at this point that they wouldn't find a way to criminalize women for taking Tylenol. I've been saying it for years. Of course, not to talk about ovulating on social media. Don't talk about going out on social media. If you have a miscarriage and somebody says, I saw her partying on Facebook 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's all there. But the last thing I want to say is,
I agree.
And you had said what they cited was not, there's weak associations, nothing associated with acetaminophen.
No.
But do you know what there is studies linking to ADHD and autism is
what?
Old sperm. Old sperm. So I'm just saying that maybe Viagra shouldn't be given out to men over 40. If that's maybe like, listen, I'm over 40, right? So like I do have a stick in the fire here. I would like men over 40 to also be able to keep it up. But I'm just saying, if this is a real public health crisis, let's look at the facts. Okay, love you.
Agreed.
Love what you do.
Love you too, Ash. Thank you, friend.
Bye. Yep.
Appreciate you, Sue. Bye. Good point. Right? Good point. So, young men, spank it in a sock with purpose and then put it in the freezer and then label it just in case your roommates aren't paying attention. Okay? Yeah. So do that. Since you're going to do it anyway and you're going to whatever. Anyway, point is that we are now being led, and thank you, Ash, for jumping in. We're now being led. Our public health policy is being set by people who just do not respect science. And I think Ash is absolutely right. We started that before. It's just one more way to stigmatize people who choose to vaccinate their kids. Now, we don't have a choice. People who want to make the choice to vaccinate. Now, I understand the mandate regarding public school. I get it because you have a social contract, right? You're in a community. We have to share spaces. We have to share classrooms. We have to share bathrooms. We have to share offices. We have to share hallways. We have to share locker rooms. All this kind of shit. There's a social contract that's required. There's never been this anti-vax movement is not that, it's really not that old. It's really not. I mean, the first, doing a little bit of research on this, and again, I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not a physician. I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, but the rhetoric has gotten really loud since the early 2000s. So it's like we have to be very careful about how we approach this going forward. My point being is that the stigmatization, and Ash pointed it out really, really well, it's going to be on moms for whatever. Like, again, just finding another way in our society to diminish women. Misogynists in charge who don't respect women, who don't believe women, who don't trust women are going to find some way to blame them for this again. And we've got so much more to cover here. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, did you really stay at a Holiday Inn last night?
I did not. No, I did not. Trying to be funny. That's what happens.
I know. Anyway, so funny. So this is, I hope you're going to enjoy this. So this is a little off topic, but I will say that, so I don't know if you heard, but 2 years ago, they, at the RNC where Donald Trump had in Milwaukee, the RNC convention, they overloaded the Grindr servers. I think I was on your live when that happened 2 years ago. So it happened again in Phoenix, Arizona yesterday at Charlie Kirk's
we started that.
Memorial
we started the show.
They overloaded the damn Grindr servers again.
And we started the show with that today. I know we started the show with that today. Same thing with Corn Hub.
On the map actually was twice or three times the size of LA's usage. And they're at a memorial service.
I know, like I was saying, we started the show with that today, and also the fact that Corn Hub also had some issues as well because of the spikes in trans corn searches. So there you go.
Yeah, it's amazing what they do behind closed doors, behind their wives.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally.
Right,
thanks for jumping in. I appreciate you. Thanks. See you later. All right, bye. Yeah, I saw that too. It's crazy. I know. See, Dave. I know. It's wild. Good morning, sir.
Morning,
How are you?
Morning. I'm good. I actually want to correct you on something.
Okay,
so
please do.
You said no. Well, you mentioned that the anti-vax movement kind of really lit up in the early aughts. Yes, and that was because of a certain particular idiot.
Yes.
What was his name? Andrew. It was an English. He was a British doctor. He lost his license because he published a study.
I had his name. Now that you say it, because I was reading about it last night. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot his name, but he lost his license. He published an article
Wakefield.
in the Lancet. Turned out, Andrew
Wakefield.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Lost his license. He published a study where it was determined that it was based on complete bullshit. But that's not the reason I came up. That is the second or the third coming of the anti-vax movement. The anti-vax movement started when the first vaccine, the polio vaccine, got started getting wide distribution. You could look it up. It was wild, and the shit that they were saying about that vaccine back then mirrors the same crap they're saying now. They didn't know what autism was, but it's the same sort of formula. So nothing old, there's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. It's the same stupid shit. We're talking about the turn of the last century, the polio vaccine. I'm waiting for them to say the polio vaccine causes autism now. Honestly, I am. But
I think
there's a place.
You're right. You're right. I guess the rise of the internet, I guess, just maybe amplified it. You're right, though. It's existed for a very long time. It's just it becomes part of our daily culture when you have more people who are talking about it, and then you've got spaces like social spaces, in particular, unfettered for content, which goes back to the kinds of things that the Biden administration had pressured Meta to do. Listen, what's your public policy on misinformation on public health? And the right said, "Oh, that's the Biden administration suppressing speech." No, it's not. Not at all. Not at all.
More importantly, the Supreme Court said it's not.
Correct. Exactly right.
This Supreme Court said it's not.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Thanks for that reminder, Dave. I appreciate you, buddy.
No problem. Talk to you later.
See ya. It's a good point. It's always existed. And again, from a public health perspective, this is the plea from my end. We have social. I've got a kid that's immunocompromised. Okay, whose immune system was just ravaged. Right? Ravaged. So we're always cautious about things, but this has such impact because if there's public policy to say that private and or public institutions can't create scenarios for vaccinations, then it exposes kids and or what's worse, it limits kids and thus stigmatizes them even more that they can't go to summer camp or they can't go to, away basketball games or whatever that might be. There's just like we discussed yesterday, there's absolutely no reason that we should be cutting funding for food programs. There should be no reason we are creating this ambiguity and targeting parents because they want to get their kids vaccinated. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And I don't know why people are just like, leave it alone. Just leave it the fuck alone. It's public health. Hey, Anna, how are you?
Not too bad.
Hello?
I'm here.
What's on your mind?
Well, the thing that really bothers me as a 65-year-old autistic woman with autistic children and on the spectrum and all that, I dislike the concept that he's putting out there that we will never be a productive member of society, we'll never have a job, we'll never raise a family, we'll never play baseball, and we should just be put out of everyone's misery.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous rhetoric.
I completely agree with you.
90% of the people who know me aren't even aware that I'm autistic because I've been masking for 60 years. I don't do it around my friends, but we know how to mask.
Sure.
Okay, I'm uncomfortable making eye contact. I look at your nose, you don't know because most people don't make eye contact. But then there's movies like the Muzak that Sia put out where they picture us as wearing headphones and walking down the road, swinging our head back and forth with our mouth open and our arms up in the air waving like we're some kind of T-Rex. It's insulting.
It is.
I worked at AT&T for 18 years, but I can't hold a job. It's. I guess the best way of looking at it is autism is just seeing the world differently. And that isn't something a vaccine is going to do. And most people who have autism in a severe degree present before they're 6 months old. And they don't vaccinate babies until they're 6 months old. So I'd never heard of a drug that affected you retroactively.
Well, I think that's the point, that there's no confirmation of anything.
Yes, you had it before you took the drug, but the drug is responsible.
Right, correlation without causation. Francis, I saw you.
I just get very incensed about the whole thing.
I understand, Anna. Thank you for jumping in today, Anna.
So
I appreciate you being here.
figured an autistic person would be a good perspective, but everything else you guys are saying is great.
Thank you very much for jumping in today. I appreciate you. Take care. Welcome back, Francis. Sorry you had some tech issues. It might have been me. Who knows? Probably me.
Who knows? I think it's the TT has been a little glitchy lately.
It has.
Well, she reminded me of something that I had wanted to talk about. It's about adults with autism, right? And we're seeing them talk about these increasing numbers of children getting diagnosed with autism, and how it's increased so precipitously. But we have to remember that autism was only a standalone diagnosis since like 1980. And you're diagnosed through the DSM. It was diagnosed as a multitude of things before that, right? Childhood schizophrenia, and other conditions before that. Before we isolated in the early 1900s what it was, and then it became a standalone diagnosis in, I think, 1980. So as we are learning more about it, as we're gaining more information about it, the amount of people that are going to be diagnosed are increasing, and we're seeing an increase in adults getting diagnosed. So maybe those numbers aren't really increasing in children. We're just diagnosing better.
Yeah. Well, as you know, science changes. Testing protocols change. The way in which we test changes. How many people are tested. All these kinds of things. That's what science does. That's right. How we discover things, right? That's how we learn things.
And the way that it's tested, right? Or the way that it's diagnosed is through the DSM. And right now we're on the 5th iteration of the DSM. So it's changed even since I started in the field. There's terms that we no longer use. Think of high functioning, what we used to call people with what we now call level 1 autism, had a different name that we no longer use. Research that if you want to be really disgusted. But right now we're seeing, I think from 2011 through 2019, the prevalence has increased from 4.2 in 1,000 to 9.5 in 1,000. So we're also seeing that big increase. And I know it's anecdotal, but in my own life, I know people around me who have been diagnosed as adults. Some really famous people have been diagnosed as adults. Dan Aykroyd got diagnosed as an adult. Sir Anthony Hopkins, I think, was in his 70s when he got diagnosed.
Correct.
And somebody needs to tell them that that they can't play baseball or pay taxes or do anything important.
Exactly.
But there's some talk that maybe Albert Einstein was autistic.
Oftentimes, and I'd be curious about your research on this, you hear things like people who have extreme levels of genius, some of the most beautiful minds in human history. There's been discussions and or assumptions or whatever, whatever the right terminology is, that a lot of those individuals may have been on a spectrum just because of their level of brilliance. I don't know. I mean, maybe you can probably, I'm sure it's been studied, but you hear that a lot though. Hear that?
Right. And I mean,
I see people saying Elon, like, I don't think Elon's very smart at all. I just think Elon's an opportunist. but he's certainly somebody who's been identified.
I do think I heard that he does have an autism diagnosis. But if you think about the nature, if anybody has ever looked at the DSM and diagnostic criteria, it's not like diabetes, right? Like, you don't go into the doctor, get a blood test, and they say, oh, you're autistic. That's not how that works.
Right.
There's a level of criteria of points, and you have to meet like 3 out of 5 in column A, and 2 out of 7 in column B, or whatever it is. So it's not as a definitive a diagnosis, I don't think, as something that you can test for, if that makes sense.
Right. Thank you for that. I appreciate you again. I'm glad we got the tech figured out. I appreciate your perspective on this, friend. Thank you very much. I love you.
Love you much.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Listen, I don't want to just get on that particular road again, but this is so incredibly dangerous. Just the amount of lies that were told yesterday. I think this is the sound of some people that they didn't hear, because I want to talk about this as well.
And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
No.
There are some studies.
It's not.
With the Amish, for example.
Amish.
No.
Yeah, virtually. I heard none.
No.
See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say.
Yeah, we know.
But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism.
Not true.
And by the
Not true. I just want to remind you, this is the same person who's saying things like this, and he also talked about testing. We're probably testing too much. You remember this, and I remember this interview. This is Jonathan Swan from Axios on HBO. He sat down with the president during the first administration. They were talking about C-19, and this clip tells you a lot.
Take a look at some of these charts.
I'd love to.
We're going to look.
Let's look.
And if you look at death,
started to go up again.
Well, right here, the United States is lowest in numerous categories. We're lower than the world.
Lower than the world?
Lower than Europe.
In what?
Look.
In what?
Take a look. Right here. Here's case death.
Oh, you're doing death as a proportion of cases. I'm talking about death as a proportion of population.
Yeah.
That's where the US is really bad.
Well,
much worse than South Korea, Germany, etc.
You can't do that. You have
Why can't I do that?
You have to go by where. Look, here is the United States. Now look, we're last, meaning we're first.
Last? I don't know what we're first in. Is it what?
Take a look again. It's cases.
Okay.
And we have cases because of the testing.
1,000 Americans are dying a day, but I understand all the.
And we have cases because of the testing. So let's just not test it. That way we can lie about it. He is a fucking child. Hang on, let me just check in real quick here. Ryan, dude, thank you, brother. Ryan, thank you for your $100. That's your protest donation. Nancy, thank you so very, very much. You're very, very kind. You guys are awesome. I love you guys. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Maria. That's incredibly kind of you guys. Also over on the green, Char, thank you so very, very much. I appreciate you guys very, very much. Anybody who donates over $5 a day goes into a drawing to try to win some merch. Anything from the merch store. Let me just clear this up now. That's 42. That's pretty cool. Thank you guys. All right, so let's unpack some of this shit. I'm not a medical I'm not a medical professional. I never claimed to be. I have no claim in that space. I'm only reporting on what I saw. And hold on, what's going on there? That's wild. The lights just changed. Anyway, what is the general medical consensus on vaccines and autism? Okay, so this is a combination of data that's been compiled by the CDC, the WHO, the National Academy of Medicine, the American Academy of Pediatrics. General consensus, vaccines do not cause autism. This conclusion is supported again by the CDC, the World Health Organization, the National Academy of Medicine, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and many other large studies. All these have called RFK and other anti-vaxxers dangerous, harmful, uncorroborated evidence of what they're talking about, or no evidence at all, just claims. Acetaminophen, Tylenol, in pregnancy and autism. Evidence is mixed and largely observational. The leading OBGYN groups, ACOG, SM, FM, still consider acetaminophen appropriate for fever, pain, and pregnancy when used at the lowest effective dose for the shortest time, while urging discussion with one's clinician. A large 2024 Swedish sibling control study found no causal link. The CDC and the AP did extensive reviews, and they conclude that vaccines, including MMR, are not associated with autism. Again, according to the CDC and the AP. National Academy of Medicine, and or IOM, in a 2011 review found, after analyzing 1,000 studies on vaccine safety, the committee found very few adverse events that are caused by vaccines and reiterated that MMR does not cause autism. In Denmark, a study involving 657,000 people. No increased autism risk after MMR. No signal in susceptible subgroups. In the U.S., a sibling study in 2015. No association between MMR and autism, even among children with an older autistic sibling. Meta-analysis in 2014. 1.2 million children were tested. No link between vaccines, MMR, thimerosal, mercury, and or autism. WHO and other reviews, global reviews likewise find no evidence that vaccines cause autism. Bottom line, the scientific community and clinical consensus globally is stable and clear. Vaccines do not cause autism and remain critical for preventing serious disease. Here we are. We are in a world where we're led by two people who have absolutely no credentials in this space whatsoever. And they are now, let me change this, and they are now part of setting public health policy. And a lot of people, don't forget, a lot of people wanted to vote for RFK because they believed in the MAHA movement. Why? This is the question that I want us to ask a lot more these days. I want us to ask a lot more questions about why is this important? Why? See, the argument that people on the right want to use now is that they were told that they were horrible parents. Well, I got to be honest. If you're not going to vaccinate your kid and your kid then becomes susceptible and or something that can be prevented because of that vaccine, then I don't think your priorities are right. And I'll call you out for that. I'll call you out. Again, we say this a lot in our space here, right? We care more about their children's safety than they do. If we had significant amount of evidence that was agreed, that there was consensus in the medical community and the epidemiological community, say that 3 times fast. If there was evidence there about connections, then of course we could have that public health debate. But there is none. There is no evidence of it. There's just none.